So the next thing we want to talk about is instability. So decision trees are pretty unstable. So what do we mean by not stable? All of you know what we mean by not stable. Small changes in the training data could cause potentially large changes in the decision tree. So what could happen? Things that you split at the root might go somewhere down because of some changes in the data, right? And if the data you start out with small, right, the sample size is small, then the variation is going to be very high, right? So is there any way of getting around it? Some of it, some regularization helps to some extent. That's all the pruning and stuff helps to some extent, but still not a lot, right? Because the variance is really high. This thing is really unstable, but still trees are very useful. So what we will do is we look at a very specific technique. Huh?
You train it on a lot of sets, training sets, part of training sets, and then some validation.
Exactly. So that's what we are going to do. One of the ways of doing yeah. So there is a very specific technique called bagging, right? So not the next 4 classes from now. Okay, I will do bagging in more detail, right? But the basic idea is that to minimize variance is not just with trees. You could do it with any unstable classifier. So what you do is, instead of training it on the data that is given to you, you train on slightly different versions of the data, right? Maybe you can just take say 70% of the data, randomly choose 70% of the data and then train a tree, randomly choose another 70%, train another tree, keep doing this and then somehow combine the class labels predicted by all the copies of the trees that you have trained, okay. So this allows you to have slightly more stable classifier. What is the problem with this? Huh?
Number of points you use will be lesser.
Yes, anything else?
Computationally you take a lot of time.
Yes.
What factor?
Anyone else? I think I heard somebody say that. You lose the biggest advantage of decision trees, which is simple, comprehensibility. So instead of having one tree, 15 trees or 100 trees, now again you have the problem of keeping your job when your manager asks you to explain what happened, right? So now I have 100 trees and somehow they make this magical prediction and you do not know, right? So that's the problem, right? So smoothness in your prediction is something that you are looking for, okay. Decision trees are not going to give you that, right? Yes, there will always be this jagged jumping around, especially regression trees, right? So when you are talking about making some predictions, if you are using a piecewise constant fit, right, for every region you are going to have some amount of jumping around. So if you are looking for a smooth function for doing your prediction, this is not going to work. So you will have to do some kind of post processing after you build the tree in order to smooth the predictions, right? And there is nothing you can do, that is the nature of the beast. So the trees are so much convenient in other ways, but smoothness is a problem. So if you are looking for a smooth fit, right, for your prediction, that is not going to happen. And could be this problem of having repeated subtrees. So what do I mean by that?
When you are like multi-way splits, then if say blue and green are acting like
Not multi-way splits, it does not have to be multi-way splits, even in binary splits you can get into this problem. Think of XOR, right? How will XOR look like? Right, I will split on x1, if x1 is 0 I will go down the left branch, x1 is 1 I will go down the right branch, and then what do I do in the left branch? I will test on x2, if x2 is 0 I will go down one branch, x2 is 1 I will go down the other branch, and likewise I will test on x2 on the other side, if it is 0 I will go down one branch, I will go 1 I will go down the other branch. So if you can think of it, these two subtrees are kind of similar, right? So it could very well be that I split on one attribute, but everything underneath it could be similar, the tree structure is very similar, but I can't collapse it because I end up with different conclusions, right. So if x1 was 0 and x2 was 0, I would be outputting 0, right, but x2 was 1 and x1 was 0, I would be outputting 1. So the outcomes are different, so I can't really club the two trees, but then the tests that I do are exactly the same, right. So decision trees are prone to having this kind of repeated subtrees, right. So you could have the same set of tests that are actually implemented in many different points in the tree, right. So it just makes the tree more complex, but there might be other ways of reordering things so that you get with the simple. XOR is a bad case, right. So if you reorder XOR, you still get with the, you still end up with the same kind of repeated structure, but there might be other cases where you might have just done the splitting in the normal way, but you end up with too much repeated structures. But if you flip the ordering of some variables, even though it is not the best variable to pick at some point, but you might end up with a more compact tree, but finding that is very hard, finding that ordering is very hard, so you have to just live with it. I am just pointing out some of the caveats, okay. So far we have assumed that we are dealing with a 0-1 loss function. So what is the 0-1 loss function for classification? Right, yeah, a miss is as good as a mile. I mean, I don't care, there is no ordering in my class labels. If I don't predict it correctly, I penalize you with 1, if I predict it correctly it is 0. But there might be cases where some misclassifications are more acceptable for you than others, right. So what do you do in such cases? Right, so you are going to have some kind of a loss value, right. So I am going to have some kind of some LKK prime, which is essentially the loss that I will suffer by classifying the data into K prime when it is actually class K, correct. So I am going to have this. So how do I accommodate that in the decision tree setup? How would I accommodate that in the SVM setup, optimal hyperplanes? Huh?
Allowed a certain number of points to be on the other side.
By the way, all of you are missing one thing. We never actually talked about how you use SVMs for multiple classes. No one asked me the question. What is the margin, maximum margin? What does the margin mean when you have multiple classes? That is a topic for another day. I will come back to that. But yeah, so SVM is not immediately clear, right? So how you do that? So suppose you have neural networks, right? We all know about neural networks, right? All of you are familiar with backprop by now, I suppose, right? So how will you accommodate this kind of thing in backprop? Can you think of ways of doing it? Okay. So it turns out there is no easy way of doing any of these, but what you can do is, at least in decision trees, try to incorporate this when you are computing your Gini index or your information gain, whatever, right. So whenever you are looking, when you are doing that, so you can figure out, okay, what is the probability that I will misclassify this. So what is the Gini index expression that we have, right? Right, so this is what we had, right. So this essentially, this was the probability that right a data point in region M will be in class K, right, times the probability that data point in region M will not be in class K, right. So there is another way I can write this, which is essentially right. So, the probability that the point is k, class k, and probability that is k prime, right. So, essentially from here to here what I need to do is take out all the terms where with p hat mk and sum up over the remaining, so which will be 1 minus p hat mk, right. So, that is essentially what I did. So, for each k I take p hat mk out from here and sum over the remaining things and I will get this expression, okay. So, this is some way of saying that, okay, the original probability is k, okay, and the estimated probability is k prime, okay, this is some way of looking at it. So, here what I can do is I can add my Lk k prime. So, you have to actually work this out for all of the measures that you are going to work with. So, if you are going to have a neural network, I mean squared error criterion you are minimizing, or cross the deviance at your cross entropy you are minimizing, whatever is the error function you are minimizing, you will have to figure out what is the appropriate way to use this class information, this class specific loss information, okay.
K not equal to
There was a not equal to there, right? Yeah. Was it? Without this, yes, they are equal. Right, without this they are equal. So, essentially what I am doing here is, so for every k, right, I am writing one term like this. So, this I can simplify like this, right. Right. So, that is p hat m1 summation k prime not equal to 1 p hat m k prime plus p hat m2 summation k prime not equal to 2 p hat m k prime, right, like that I can do that. So, I will get k such terms, and this summation is essentially 1 minus p hat m1, and this summation is 1 minus p hat m2, right, like that. So, that is essentially what I get here, okay, fine. So, like that you have to work it out for every thing. So, if we have a different loss function, okay.